right. I will now call to order the November 7th, 2023 regular school board meeting of the Stanwood-Camano School District Board of Directors. Director Bays and Director Murray are both absent and excused. Director Haglund, Director Schreiber, and myself are present, as well as our wonderful student advisors down there. Today, we're offering 2 opportunities for the public to speak. Comments specific to the consent agenda will be allowed prior to the vote on those items. Citizens who have submitted a request to speak either here in person or online during the public comment section of the agenda will be called upon to make their comments at that time, which is near the end of the meeting. Please stand with me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, so you have the agenda before you for the November 7th regular school board meeting. Are there any changes to the agenda? No. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written? Second. It has been moved by Director Schreiber and seconded by Director Haglund. All in favor of approving the agenda for November 7th, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Next up, we have the minutes for the October 17th, 2023 regular school board meeting. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? No. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the October 7th, 2023 meeting? Someone. That has been moved by Director Haglund and seconded by Director Schreiber. All in favor of approving the minutes from the October 17th regular school board meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Next up, take it away, Dr. Roma.
We will begin with donations this afternoon, and our student reps will read those in.
The Stanwood-Camano School District received the following donations: $1,000 from the Stanwood-Camano Area Foundation through a grant awarded from the Lindsay Metzger and John L. Metzger Music Grant Fund in support of the music program at Stanwood-Camano School.
$2,948.48 from the Windermere Foundation to purchase Lego STEM kits for Exelati Elementary School.
Donation of 5 gallons of paint from Painter Alley in Stanwood to be used in touch-up student areas such as the sensory room at Elder Bay Elementary School, valued at $100.
Wonderful, thank you. We always appreciate our community donations. We're going to kick our presentations off this afternoon with our annual technology update from Mr. Owen.
Thank you. I'd like to start the technology report today, the annual technology report, with our district promise and just leaning into the prepared for the future more and more. It's essential that our students and staff have technology that allow them to be prepared for the future. And also thinking about the portrait of a graduate from our strategic plan and focusing on the top 3 bullets there in particular. That is career, college, and life-ready graduates, effective collaborators and communicators, and intellectual innovators. And I think about programs that we have on our campuses that have technology at their core, specifically in our CTE programs that allow our students to be intellectual innovators as they move through their courses. I want to center back to the technology vision statement that we have in our district technology plan. That plan is a 5-year plan, and we're just about in the middle of that plan. It runs from 2021 to 2025. And just that vision statement, which I'll read: engaging and enabling students and staff to personalize education using a variety of technologies integrated into learning and the curriculum. And once again, as we move through the buildings, we'll see the different types of technology that we use and that we have. I'm gonna highlight 3 areas of the technology in our district today. Not to say that that's the only 3 things happening, but they are the 3 things I'd like to highlight in this annual report. The first is two different graphs, really, a top and a bottom graph, and you'll notice along the bottom is the years that transcend upwards. And what it is showing our student Chromebook inventory. The top graph shows a number of Chromebooks moving to what we call automatic update expiration. Each school year, prior to a move that Google made, we use the Google interface for our students and the Google Suite for our students that allows that Google or that automatic update expiration to move from the typical 5 or 6 years that we have had in the past to 10 years. So you will notice that last year we would have had about 23 student devices roll out of or move what we say end of life. This year we would expect 1,401 at the end of this school year, May actually, to move to end of life. And then in 25-26, almost 1,200 more. But with the Google's move to prolong those updates to occur, we're almost out to year 28, 29. So it preserves, so to speak, about 2,500 Chromebooks in our inventory to be able to be updated through the year 28 and 29. Now, why that update is important is every year, for instance, the Smarter Balance Assessment requires a system update to be able to host the secure browser for the testing. If we can't update, we can't use those for testing. So that's the good news. One thing to keep in mind, I think, is although, we won't have 2,500 plus devices roll end of life until 2028-29, there's still wear and tear on the devices themselves. We have all of our high school students that have the ability to check out Chromebooks and take them home. And if you have a personal device that's 10 years old, how that wear and tear is impacted. So just something to keep in mind, as we continue to replenish what we can of the Chromebooks with the absence of a technology levy. The next piece I'd like to highlight is what will now be a federal program called E-rate that we currently are involved with and will continue to be involved with. And E-rate is a program that provides discounts to assist schools like ourselves and libraries to obtain affordable internet access. Okay. So this past year, for instance, we used part of our offset to replace about 150 of our 175 access points. You'll see an access point back there in the corner. Those were once again going end of life. So we have nearly replaced all of those. Thank you, Stacy, appreciate it. And then we also have an obligation to pay for maintenance of our fiber internet that we have direct fiber to each of our buildings, including El Jabay and Atsalati. We are tracking closely the infrastructure in our district as well, which includes things that we could talk about later, including switches, firewalls, servers, that we're going to push into E-rate this year. It's not guaranteed that we get those things supported through E-rate, but we're absolutely going to attempt to have them supported through E-rate. You'll notice that we pay about 40% of the actual industry cost when we enter into this program. So it's a significant savings for the district. Lastly, I'll just mention, we intend to help bring in endpoint detection and response, which I'll talk about on the next slide, through E-rate if possible. Okay. Advanced risk controls is the third area that I wanted to discuss today, and those are areas of our network that most of us don't see. Those are the parts of the network that provide protection from hackers, from phishing attempts, which we've seen some local districts suffer from even as late as this year. So two things that we have in place right now. One thing we have in place, one thing that is coming on this week, multi-factor authentication. You're probably aware of that if you use your Google account. It requires, and it's a standard of practice across the technology industry now. Our second piece that moves our insurance coverage up significantly is that our data will be backed up and segmented to an offsite location. So for all intents and purposes, we will back up all of our data, and we will intermittently move that data and the backup on an external device offsite. The reason we would want to do that is that when we have a data breach, they generally attack the servers on site, and so this would provide us quick recovery if in fact that did happen. Lastly, are some considerations that I would really just appreciate bringing forward, and those are in the absence of the expired and non-renewed capital projects and technology levy, and how they are impacting the district's technology. We have delayed maintenance of different district infrastructure. It's similar to delayed maintenance that we might see because of the delay or lack of funding, maybe from facilities. However, most of ours delay of maintenance comes in renewal of updates to our current infrastructure. So items like firewalls, switches, and equipment that goes end of life. So some delayed maintenance. We do have a reduced student and staff device count. Now we are down about 15% of our total devices from last year. We still, if you count the number of devices that we have, it's about equal to the number of students in the district. However, that's not how we allocate devices in the district now, because we have them carded, so to speak. So that's the second thing. And then lastly, the previous budget for the district, for the district technology that was supported by the levy is now absorbed in the general fund, and we all know the impact of that. Any questions?
So I know you said we're down about 15%. Obviously that makes it not a one-to-one, but every classroom has a cart where they still have access to Chromebooks when they need them.
So yes, currently the elementaries have between 12 and 13 carts a piece. So if we have generally 3 classes in a grade band, it would be 2 carts per 3 classes. So they're scheduling, they're working around that. The middle schools have about a cart per classroom, and the high school level, our students are still able to check out a device if they want. We'll have to reevaluate that at the end of the year based on our inventory.
And then, so Chromebooks, when we, like every year, are they just assigned to the school, and then that school, like as they phase in, phase out, they get new ones? Or do we collect them all back as a district at the end of every school year and then decide where we're assigning those back out? Like how does that?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So would our tech staff. What happens is that they actually gather the devices, pull the devices out that have come into life, and then resupply the carts with devices that are going to go into life at about the same time. So much of that work occurred this summer. So that cart A at Port Susan is going to go end of life in the same, in 2028, for instance.
Okay.
But there is shuffling that happens every summer, yes.
Okay, so like one classroom, their cart should all be generally the same sort of model of Chromebook. So it's not like Sally has extremely fast, brand new Chromebook,
Yes.
and John over here has the Chromebook that's getting pulled at the end of the year and you can't get it to connect or whatever.
That was the goal this summer,
Okay.
and I would say we're there.
Okay, one last question. So obviously we're sort of prolonging, right? So instead of 1,100, 1,500, whatever, we're doing like 3,000 in one chunk. Is that easier or harder to manage, I guess, or do we not know yet?
We know,
Okay.
this will be more difficult to replace 3,000 in 1 year, and For instance, we have a bulk rate at about $265 a device right now. So the current price is, if we multiply 265 by 3,100 computers, that's what we're looking at in 2028, 2029.
If the devices last that long.
If the devices last that long, and if we want to maintain the ratio of devices to students that we currently have.
But it did buy us time.
Did buy us time. Yes. Thank you for that.
Any other questions? No?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We will transition to our special services update with,
Robert Haskell, sandwich between two presentations. I don't know. Weird place to be. So, start off with our promise, and I have an opportunity to sell our district to a lot of different groups and the outside people, and I think us having that inclusive setting in our promise and having equity as a major tenet for us to look towards educational equity, that just makes it that much easier. And a lot of our surrounding districts really are jealous of the fact that our district has made that commitment, and we definitely appreciate in special services the commitment that the board has made on that. So special services, you can see all the areas that we serve, and each one has its own complexities, and depending on the day, they kind of sometimes take over in those complexities. But that is our special services. Starting with health services, you can see that this over the last several years, we've had a pretty marked increase in life-threatening health concerns, and also the medically complex issues that we've been dealing with. Definitely our nurses have been feeling that and experiencing that. Also of note on here is the office visits per year, and you can see that kind of high water mark that we had with that last year at 33,000. It's something that our district nurses actually got together in regards to multi-tiered systems of support to look at the number of office visits, and through that lens, and really recognizing that those office visits are time out of class for students, and that can affect them. And while they're really well-meaning and want to make a welcoming nurse or health room for the students, they also understand they need to stay in class too. So they've been doing work with schools to kind of educate, or with the classroom teachers to educate them on which issues should come out of class and which ones need to stay there, and people need to kind of hold in with that. So we're watching that number drop pretty well so far this year. So as far as our staffing for health services, we moved our assistant director of COVID response, Mary Hoffman, has resumed a role as a lead nurse in the district. So she's still doing much of the work that she had been doing, but is doing it in a slightly different role, and is in the buildings even more than she had been during some of the COVID time, and is also housed at Lincoln Hill High School now. And you can see that with the expiration of our grant funds, we had gone up during the COVID times, and post-pandemic, we're back to near the staffing level that we had in our health rooms as far as the number of hours and FTE for nursing. So McKinney-Vento and foster youth, some things of note, and you can see the things that also kind of stabilized in that number of qualified students. Although I added in the students unsheltered number just to kind of get context. And that's what a lot of people think of with regards to McKinney-Vento, and we definitely still have that experience in our community for families. And you can see a really sharp change in the foster youth number that's come this year. And if you may be aware of House Bill 1227 that had come through, that kind of changed the the way that, that DCYF is looking at and Child Protective Services is looking at, removals and, has reprioritized some of that. So, but we're seeing that kind of change effect in our community, and we think that the families are there and available to take kids, but we're actually seeing that the kids are not, that they're just not being pulled from homes. So, moving on to special education. So some enrollment trends that you can see with our elementary assist, and we have opened up to have 3 sites for our assists at the elementary level, and that number has definitely grown over the years, which kind of, and also that number this year at 34 with coincides with that life-threatening illnesses and medically fragile cases that we have there that are definitely had impact there. And our out-of-district placements that we're still kind of holding and really trying to prioritize keeping our kids in district and come up with solutions so that the kids can stay in their local schools rather than being moved out of district. With regards to our inclusive practices, this is a document that we put together and Evan published last year, and kind of showing the journey that we've been making in our inclusive practices. And we've prioritized 3 areas for work with our with the work that we're doing on that. Staff professional development, access and belonging for students, and then principal professional development. And I've just done some principal PD this morning as well. And regards to this, our really our big work over the last several years has been around inclusion, and you can see that over the last several years with that marker of 80 to 100% in general education, which is a standard that the federal government and the state looks at as the most important marker for students to have that access, 80 to 100%, that's where the greatest success for students with disabilities is with that. And you can see that change that we've made, and 10% may not sound like a lot, but it's a pretty substantial change. It's way more than the state level of change that's happened. And you can see some huge work that happened at the high school, especially at the 9th grade. And then we also have put on there the work that we're doing at the 6th grade, that transition from elementary to middle that we're still working on. And we're definitely targeting that for this year, get that number back up. So something to really highlight that we've been working on is in regards to our the partnership that we've developed with the University of Washington Caring Center and the work that we've been doing with them. They've been coming in and connecting with us to do co-teaching trainings and coaching at the high school, and we were selected as a demonstration site for our work on inclusive practices, especially at that high school level. And so that's one of our demonstration sites, but they're also looking at us as a district model for other groups to come in and make that connection with us to see, because of the progress that we've really made from preschool all the way through to graduation, and that movement we've been making. And it's allowed us to also go and visit a lot of the demonstration sites around the state and get our staff out to see what they're doing at the other schools that are doing this great work. And actually, we just went to Monroe High School yesterday, and we're able to connect with them, see their programs and the movement that they've made. And they also had a visit from the state of California that was coming to look at the work that they're doing and the work that we're doing as the state in Washington towards inclusive practices. And on the horizon, so up and coming, we're getting much more local with our programming for students. So we're opening up an assist classroom at Stanwood Middle School, so that we'll have one at both middle schools, and TK program at Cedar Home. And we're making connection with our local ECAP program so that we can push in services and get things more local for our elementary students as well. And we've been talking with different community groups about possibility of an early learning center, and making connections with Making Life Work Foundation, YMCA and ECAP programs, and just a lot of different groups to try and move that forward. So I put in the safety net numbers here. This is just kind of part of the financing that we do as or the work that we do to be able to finance the programs that we do and manage our growth with students and the needs, the more complex needs that we have with students. So so you can see that over the years we've grown not only the number of students that we've been claiming, but also the dollars that we were able to recuperate for this from the state for some of our students with much more complex needs.
Can you clarify the difference between McKinney-Vento and unsheltered?
Sure. McKinney-Vento, so to qualify for McKinney-Vento, there's a very broad look at the ways that somebody might qualify. You could qualify if you were doubled up as a family, if you had two groups that had to reside together because they weren't able to afford separate housing, and that's one example of how you could qualify. Anything that is related to the financial impact on your family that you might have had. Unsheltered is much more of people that don't have homes, or are living in spaces that would not traditionally be considered to be homes. So living, for instance, in a trailer on somebody's property without any utilities would be considered unsheltered, and so, or living in their car, or just not having access to any housing.
Is there a difference in supports between the two?
We support them, and our role in this is primarily connecting people with resources and helping to build the connections for families, and we don't do direct housing support, but we will help connect them to the places where they can get that support. So we would have more intensive supports if we were if it was somebody in shelter. So, but there's just more resources that we would try to connect them with.
Just to clarify, we would get information from either like Department of Social Services or CCYF or the families themselves, or there's a variety of ways that we would get that sort of delineation, or
The qualifying.
Yeah.
If they're qualifying. So when students are registering, we get that information from them. It's one of the original or the main pieces of paperwork that everybody has to fill out, and we have building points of contact at every school that connect with families if they mark that they have the housing needs, and we work to educate all of our staff so that they know what to look for or listen for if a student might be qualified for McKinney-Vento, so that we can have our liaison, who is Michelle Kunzen in the back, and be able to connect with the families.
okay, I think that's important because, there's a situation at the beginning of the year when you're registering for school, and then if something changes mid-year, I think it's important that we're aware of, the families are aware that something changes and come to us.
Yeah. And we do educate the staff on what those, on the availability of programs.
Can you talk a little bit more about that negative percentage for sixth graders?
So it kind of jumped out, this jumped up this year, or the last year and a half, and actually this is the data for 22-23, not the 23-24. So it should be better on this current year, but it did jump up on that. And I think we had, last year's transition, or that it was, the transition time allotted for the passing of information, I think, it was lessened. And so there were, and I think the middle school took that as kind of a signal of, we're not sure about these kids, we're going to support them. And it ended up being more supports than they probably would have necessarily needed. And so, and then once they hit 7th grade, then they were able to draw those supports back. Which is, it's good to be supportive. At the same time, we want to have kids enter into a school and have access to general ed, because that is meant to be where, or that is where they are most likely to receive the best education. Did that answer your question?
Sort of.
Okay.
So we erred on the side of caution as far as providing for 6th graders in that transition year, as opposed to.
I think there was less information passed on to the 6th grade than we would have wanted about what the
like fifth
access
grade
could have been
to
from the 5th grade to the 6th grade. And so, so without that information, they kind of jumped into that. Let's support by adding in pull-out time.
Now put in that transition from 21-22 school year to the 22-23. And we
Filled in some of that,
Place
and
this
then,
year?
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? No, thank you.
Ryan, no, thank you.
And our the final note on the superintendent's report, board received a copy of this. Previous is our flood plan. It's not a presentation, but rather an artifact for you to be aware of, that we annually provide a flood plan and how we serve families with regard to transportation. Should we need to modify bus routes, you can see that it is there. So the board has that for reference. And I think everything in the superintendent's report today.
Awesome, thank you very much, Dr. Rumbach. Next up, we move to our consent agenda. Anyone in attendance may speak to the items contained in the consent agenda, and only those items contained in the consent agenda at this time. If you're attending on the Zoom platform, please use the Zoom raise hand feature so that we can invite you to speak. We'll start with, are there any board members that wish to pull any of the items from the consent agenda for discussion?
I'd like to pull number 6.
Okay, and I'd like to pull item number 3. For sure, no? Okay, so we'll sort of put a pin in those. Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions or any comments? No, and we have no attendees on Zoom, so there's nobody to raise their hand. Okay, so let's start with, is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 2 and 4 through 5 and 7?
Second.
This has been moved by Director Schreiber and seconded by Director Hagland. All in favor of approving consent agenda items 1 through 2, 4 and 5 and 7, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Director Hagland, we'll start with you.
Sure. I put 6. I just wanted to maybe have a discussion just to clarify. We did this resolution at our last meeting, but we are sort of doing it again. Yeah.
Yes, so we are asking the board to reapprove our replacement levy. We're interested in ensuring that the language describing what the levy dollars were spent on would be consistent in both the resolution language and the voters pamphlet. And we noticed that that language was slightly different in those 2 places, and we didn't want voters to read one set of words in one document and a different set of words in the other. So we have worked with our attorney to make sure that those are consistent. And there's no other change to any content or other numbers in terms of amount collected. It's just a change.
So just to clarify, the dollar amounts, the levy amounts are exactly the same, nothing different there.
Correct.
I'd be comfortable voting on.
Thank you. I wanted to pull, item number 3. It's, approval to approve the letter of agreement, with PSE of Stanwood-Camano to allow classified, employees on unpaid leave to be substituted. Just had a couple of questions, like what are some scenarios that a person would be on unpaid leave but still be qualified to like come back?
Yep, let's have our executive director of HR share that.
Hello, we currently have 3 people that are out on unpaid leave, and they chose to request a leave from their current position. And this is so they could continue their education. They are all in programs to become teachers. And depending on the quarter for when they have class, some days they do not have an actual class, and they would like to have the opportunity to be a substitute in our district still. Currently, they are actually paying to continue their education, so they are not receiving anything in the way of benefits from our school district or any monthly paychecks like they were when they were actually working. And so they would like that opportunity to be able to do a little bit of work while they are continuing their education. For these individuals, of course, it depends on the day and time of their actual classes. And every single day we have paraeducator positions that are not filled. And so this would help us as a school district as well.
And it's not uncommon for those individuals to be pursuing a teacher's certificate, and we hope to employ them in the future, just by way of context.
Just to clarify, this would have other implications for other folks, perhaps maybe not just those 3, but we still have the right to say, like, to choose who we allow to be a substitute. So it doesn't just mean because we said that we allowed this, that just anybody can willy-nilly apply. Like, so if somebody were on unpaid leave for a different reason, we could still decline for substitutes or whatever.
Yes, that's correct.
Like for disciplinary reasons.
Yeah, yeah. Anyone can apply, but not all individuals are.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that answers my question.
How critical is our shortage?
Well, we have been continuing to publicize our positions because we do have a great need. And it's not just our school district, the school districts around us. And so we have been working with our director of communication to try to get the word out there through social media and our website to try to gain more interest. And as far as teaching staff goes, next Monday and Tuesday, we will be providing a training for 18 people who have a bachelor's degree, but they don't have their teaching certification. So they will be here with us going through a 2-day training. So then that way they can be what's called an emergency substitute for teaching staff.
All right, so is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 3 and 6?
Second.
Has been moved by Director Schreiber and seconded by Director Heitman. All in favor of approving consent agenda items 3 and 6, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, now we move on to public comment, but I believe we had no public comment. No, none. Next, I'm just flying through these things. Our topic scheduled for school board discussion. So our first item on our topic scheduled for school board discussion is the first reading of revised policy 6250, district-owned cellular devices. Any thoughts, questions, concerns on policy 6250?
Not for me.
No? Is there a consensus to move it to a second reading?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. Second reading it is. Next up is the first reading of revised policy 5161, disability in the workplace. But note, looks like we updated an existing policy, added some more specific language around all of the parties in the school to include board members, staff, everybody. Is that my understanding? That's correct. questions, concerns, thoughts on? No? Yeah? Well, you never know. Consensus to move it to a second reading? Yes. Yes, excellent, second reading it is. Next up are student advisor reports on school business.
Mine's pretty short, but
Excellent.
this week we started a new club called Shelf After Hours, and it's our CTE club and for Core Plus, and it's where you can finish projects from Core Plus or start new ones. It's with the slight body, and fun fact, Core Plus is one of my favorite classes because it's very hands-on and like it incorporates like a lot of art and stuff. So thank you.
Did you get like a certification when you need for class?
No,
You can use for it now?
I'm not.
Okay.
All right, mine is long, but the most notable, would be the relative success of the homecoming dance. Attendance and participation was on par with previous years, with 909 tickets sold and 10,090 collected in revenue. This amount will be continuously reinvested into the homecoming account for future activities, mostly pertaining but not limited to our seasonal dances. The next major event on our doorstep is the Veterans Day Assembly being held this upcoming Wednesday on the 8th. Aiden Haglin, our ASB Vice President, is spearheading the committee, working on procuring guest speakers and other performers in an aim to create a respectfully unconventional assembly still grounded in tradition. To those who are wondering, the assembly will be held in the pack like the previous years, with seniors being brought down during second, sophomores during third, juniors during fifth, and freshmen during sixth. Our colleagues from Lincoln High School will be joining us during second period, and the assembly will be open to the public during fifth period. The past month, we have also been recognizing the indigenous people, Hispanic people, and recognizing breast cancer awareness. Other less notable activities worth highlighting is our DJ Khaled Ball on the third floor at the mouth of the center stairs, and the staff facilitated trick-or-treating event that went on during Halloween last week. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have the board director reports on business conducted. Director Caitlin?
Sure. I was honored to attend the celebration for our certificated of the month employee in October. I went to the Stanwood High School choir concert and I voted. Yay! Yeah, that's my list.
Good. Director Sharp?
Well, we recognize one of our outstanding contractors this week. These are the people find out about it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, I had the opportunity to attend the Flash meeting, which is the family learning event last week with Dr. Ryan. That was good. There was one parent that showed up. There's an elementary one this week, I believe, right? At 5:30 on Wednesday. So come on down to that. I did attend, not necessarily school business, but I attended the Hope for Hunger event last Friday, held by the Stanwood-Camano tribe, to promote the food bank and stuff. That was really well attended. I thought it was really great. The guest speaker was pretty fantastic as well. The Economic Alliance, I think, for Snohomish County. So that was a really great event Friday morning. I have also voted. Please remember to vote. Today is the day. Turn in your ballots. Oh, yeah. And then, don't forget, don't forget, I didn't tell you yet, so frozen, don't forget after I tell you. Over here, we have our harassment, intimidation, and bullying posters that our students have created. It is a contest, so please take the opportunity to vote on your favorite posters before you leave. Those are all of the things I think that we have. I appreciate everybody coming today. Please vote. And with that, we will adjourn our meeting.